Welcome to the Collaboration, Team Building, and Establishing Relationships with Landscapes Architects conference call. My name is Larissa, and I'll be your operator for today's call. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Later, we'll conduct a question-and-answer session. Please note that this conference is being recorded, and I'd like to turn the call over to Amanda Kolesny. Amanda, you may begin.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Amanda Kolesny, and I am a landscape designer at RRM Design Group. And with me is Mike Sherrod. He's a landscape architect at RRM Design Group, and he's actually a principal at our firm.
Welcome, everyone.
And, first introduction of our firm and what we do. Like I said, I'm a landscape designer. Mike's principal and landscape architect. RRM Design Group is located in San Luis Obispo, California, and right on the central coast of California, basically smack dab in the middle of LA and San Francisco. And we are a multidisciplinary firm, so we've got over 65 professional planners, landscape architects. We've got architects, civil engineering, and surveying. And our projects vary, pretty wide range of project types, including both private and public sector. We've got residential, urban, parks, trails, public safety, big master plan documents. And am I forgetting? I mean,
that's the full range.
Running the full gamut of project types. And our topic today is team building and establishing relationships with landscape architects. And when Mike and I were discussing how to communicate this topic, we basically boiled it down to 3 key points. Basically each point is going to hopefully help you guys get a little insight based on our experiences with concrete contractors, basically just help really build and establish strong teams and relationships with us and you guys. So first key point talks about, all three points: when, what, how. First one, when and how you should approach your landscape architect. So basically when you're going to get your foot in the door and how you get your foot in the door. Second is what kind of support you can provide the landscape architect. And that's basically what you can do throughout the design process, construction documentation, and during actual construction. And then lastly, how, you got yourself in the door, you've helped us with all the support, now we have to make sure you actually get the contract. So, next slide. So the way we're going to address those 3 key points is we're going to run through 3 projects of ours that have had a lot of decorative hardscapes involved in the projects. And so 2 project locations, 3 projects. So we've got Venice Beach, California. They're all of them are on the they're all beaches and on the coast. We've got kind of a coastal theme here. But so first project is in Venice Beach, California. Second project will also be in Venice Beach, and then the last project we'll conclude with is in Avila Beach, California. And you can see on my little California map in the middle where those are located in the world. So I'm going to turn Venice Beach over to Mike Sherrod because that was his baby.
Thanks, Amanda. And the way we've structured this, too, is as Amanda mentioned, we have 3 projects. At the conclusion of each of the projects, we'll open it back up to questions so we can address those as they relate to those projects, and we'll try and showcase the 3 teaching points we wanted to get across today. So a little bit of background on Venice Beach. The client was the city of Los Angeles. It was a project that we actually started quite a while ago in 1996, and it just finished the recent phase a couple years ago. And the project is about, it encompassed a 2-mile-long linear park on the beach. It's technically a street, but most people recognize it as Oceanfront Walk, and it's really a boardwalk most of the time, but it does serve as a street providing access for delivery trucks, emergency services, and trash pickup. And also it supports the events that are held out on the beach where they bring in all the rigging and equipment to set up, for example, X Games and some of those sorts of events. And we were tasked with coming up with a master plan first for the area to renovate it. It had fallen into a serious state of disrepair. And it went through an extensive public outreach process, which really identified some of the challenges. And so when we talk about our teaching points of when it's really a good time to reach out to landscape architects or designers, it's really at this design development level. And the image on screen right now is a drawing of where we're starting to come up with ideas after talking to community members on what they wanted. And we outreached to a few specialty concrete companies, one of which really was helpful, and they were able to provide a certain level of support that we needed to move forward. So this goes to the second teaching point of what kind of support are we looking for. And generally, we're looking for, in this case, we were looking for help with what the material could actually do, how much of an artistic role could it really play, and what were the costs that were associated with different decisions that we were making, knowing that in the end, it's a second most visited spot in California. It's a high amount of traffic, subject to a lot of use and abuse, so whatever we did had to be durable. And the images that are showing up next are after construction, some of these plaza spaces. So the integration of the concrete contractor during the design was actually integral to the project's success. We were able to demonstrate to the owner, to the city, different cost scenarios and different material arrangements so that we could come up with components that were meeting everyone's needs. And a lot of this, as you can see in these images, is a lot of decorative flat work. One of the primary uses of the site is for plaza space. So there's during the summer, on a day-to-day basis, there's street vendors and performers, and then on the weekends and other occasions, they have very large events that draws the region over to this part of Los Angeles. And this gives some more images of some of the events going on and give an idea of the scale of what's happening out there. In this particular case, I want to move to the next slide. This is an image of, it's a street. But what's interesting here, this is an example of where the skill set from the contractor came into play. We went through a process with the residents who live there, and Venice has always been a bit of a bohemian area, and the locals really wanted to keep it more or less looking the way it did, which historically was just an asphalt strip, and that was the Oceanfront Walk, but it was failing and falling apart. They did not want to see it turned into just a concrete, looking like a sidewalk and really losing its character. So in the end, they were okay with concrete that looked like asphalt. It's an interesting process, but nevertheless, we then began to work with our contractor, the concrete contractor, to figure out how can we actually make that happen and make it look artistically nice. And we came up with solutions. They actually poured several panels. I ended up going down to their facility and looking at different pours they had done, as well as other ways to achieve our goals. And we ended up settling on a process that was cost-effective for the city, but it met the community's requirements and worked out pretty nicely. And that kind of takes us to how do you make, how can you ensure or better your chance for getting the work? And in this case, which is a strategy that, frankly, we've used in a few cases, because some of the concrete was so special, and these next images will give you some other images too of concrete walls and art walls on the site. We categorized the areas of concrete work that were truly a specialty as artwork. And then since we control the bid documents, we write the specifications, we worked with the city to carve out all the art components as a requirement for every contractor to include. So we already worked up an estimate with the contractor to install, put that number in the bid, already filled in, telling that whoever bids this project, you will use this firm for these components, and this is their price. So that was a way that we were able to, as the designers, to control the quality on site, knowing that we had developed quite a bit of trust in this firm, and then when it turned over to construction, all the fruits of our labor paid off because the project went exactly as we envisioned it and exactly as the client envisioned it. So in the end, we had a happy client. We ended up with a good project for our portfolios to get more work, and the contractor did as well. So it's really a win-win all the way around with that sort of an arrangement. The last slide. Mm-hmm. But now we'll turn it back over to the operator for any questions.
Thank you. We'll now begin the question and answer session. If you have a question, please press 0, then 1 on your touch-tone phone. If you wish to be removed from the queue, please press 0, then 2. If you're using a speakerphone, you may need to pick up the handset before pressing the numbers. Once again, if there are any questions, please press 0, then 1 on your touch-tone phone. Standing by for questions. We have a question from Randy Sweeting from Friendswood Contracting.
Yeah, I was curious what mode of contact you preferred in terms of an introduction to a potential contractor. I mean, is a mailing or phone contact, or what's the best way to reach out and touch a landscape architect effectively?
Well, from my own personal perspective, a mailer is the least effective way because we get I would say hundreds per month from all sorts of suppliers, so it just sort of gets lost in the shuffle. The most effective way, frankly, is if you call us, or if you're in the area and you want to drop by and make an appointment to meet, or if you have a project you're working on and invite us out, we're more than happy to go check it out, see what you can do, and the relationships typically grow from there.
Yeah, the typical, I think we call them lunch and learns, where the company will come to our firm and basically have a 1-hour, 45-minute presentation, provide lunch, because people always follow food, but I think decorative concrete is one of those topics that's pretty interesting, and I think that if you approached the firm and wanted to do, schedule a lunch and learn and, put on a full presentation, I think decorative concrete is just one of those topics that you'll get a lot of participation with. So a lot of people will end up signing up for your presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm showing no further questions.
Okay.
Okay. I'll turn this back to Amanda so she can continue on with the second phase of Venice.
Okay. So same client, same project location, and actually some of the same players that were involved, concrete contractors. I think they just moved location. So we actually followed the people that we originally worked with, concrete contractors. We followed them to the firm that they went to because we just really had a successful outcome with Venice Beach boardwalk or oceanfront walk. So this is an aerial, kind of a bird's eye view of the in-ground concrete skate park right on the beach. And the city, the client, wanted to do another repeat of element that we did for the oceanfront walk. So on the left, you see that was stained concrete.
Yeah, stained concrete.
Stained concrete. And what year was that?
That was 99.
So to the left is 1999, stained concrete, and city really liked that fun, funky logo and wanted to see that in the skate park. So to the right, you can see a 3D model of the skate park and where we plan to have that logo show up. So I sent that exact same image to the concrete contractors and told them basically, all of the site conditions, what was going on with the site, the foot traffic, sand, salt spray, and what can I do to make this logo bright and vibrant and keep over time. And they said, well, we have the brand new patented installation method called lithomosaic. And I think right after I sent the image from the previous slide, that rendering, I think I got a sample from them in like 3 weeks. So the sample you see is on the left, and that's what lithomosaic is. And so, I mean, they basically were super confident that this is the type, this has to be the way that you create this logo. So they sent this sample, and the sample basically sold us and the city.
I just want to chime in real quick. And what's important about this step in the process, since we're in design and we're not in construction, we have the ability to change and everything around as we learn more about this. And in fact, the sample we received was really something we used to continue designing from, because it wasn't exactly what we were thinking,
right,
but it informed us about the materials and what could happen, and we were able to go back and work with the concrete contractor to figure out ways to improve this design. So all of this happened before it even landed in a construction form, where you really don't have the ability to go back and make too many changes.
Right. So to reiterate basically what Mike said, going back to the key points, when should you get into the project? It's during design development. You want to try to get in before construction documents, which unfortunately that's a lot of times that's the time where the contractor gets involved in and not part of the design team. So this also goes into what kind of support you can provide the landscape architect. The sample was really instrumental in improving the way the logo is going to look, gave us a way better understanding of what materials we could work with. And then to the right, you'll see the plan view, basically part of our construction detail set. I sent a plan view of the drawing to my concrete contractor, and they literally wrote onto the plan and helped me develop this detail. And so it goes back to the support. I really looked for them to educate me on all the terminology and answer any questions the client was going to have as far as durability and what exactly the installation process is. Because if I'm presenting this, I'm essentially pitching this idea and product to the client in the way that I can successfully, convince them to use this is being educated. And so, being able to spit back facts, which I got from my contractor. So this is actually an interesting project. If you go to the next slide, we got really involved in the fabrication of the lithomosaic. So I actually went down and helped fabricate with some of their employees. You can see the image on the left, and yes, it's supposed to be backwards because it actually gets flipped over and laid into the concrete. So you have to do a mirror image. And then you'll see that to the right, that's like a balloon shot, like a little mini hot air balloon shot. You can just see how bright and vibrant it ended up turning out to be.
And you'll notice, too, the V in the image to the left, you can see the evolution from the first sample we received, from where it started to where it went to. So that was very helpful to have that information during the design development.
Yeah, the sample was crucial. So then going back to the how, our very last point, how to make sure you get the contract. It's really important to be, like Mike said, have bulletproof specs written. I think there were at some points where I was copying and pasting the spec like a sample spec that they had showed me, and not only were they in the document specifications, but they were in the plans. So the detail that I showed you in the previous slide, you'll actually see their name written into the spec. And so, and then I know being redundant, but this was considered art. So the way that we made sure that this contractor got the contract is we basically sold it as this is an artistic element, and so, you couldn't really, no other product or no other contractor would be able to substitute their services. So I think that might be the last slide. Okay, so
Back to the operator.
Operator, we're ready for questions.
Thank you. Once again, if you have a question, please press 0, then 1. And Randy Sweeney from Friendswood Contracting is online with a question.
All right.
I'm curious about social media and blogs. I mean, LinkedIn and those kinds of. I guess I always think about it more. I guess in terms of maybe retail methods of marketing. I mean, is that an area that that has any value as far as you can see, or?
You mean for creating connections between designers? Oh, yeah. And Amanda can answer this too, but I find LinkedIn to be pretty helpful. The network created over time consists of not just my colleagues in the design field, but the contractors that I've run into over the years. I link with them, and they always have good linkages also to just information in the industry. So it's in a way, it's like a mini directory. I can go find other information and talk to other people. Mm-hmm. So LinkedIn seems to work pretty well.
Our firm uses Facebook on a regular basis for newsletters, projects, awards, and everything. I mean, I would say we probably send out 1 or 2 Facebook notices a day, or somewhere around that. And I would say it's a highly effective way for us to see what you're doing right now. What's funny is I don't think I have a single decorative concrete contractor Facebook page. I haven't seen a single one.
Okay. All right.
So I would say that's a very effective method, and like Mike said, LinkedIn. And then as far as other social media, I can't really see any other. Maybe blogs. The only blogs that I tend to see decorative concrete is on the Landscape Architecture magazine design blog, but I've never actually seen a contractor, like a company, have their own blog.
Mm-hmm. So that would have to be content driven then to really catch your attention. It'd have to be something worthwhile. It can't, it just can't be something that's rote. It has to be something new or unusual, or would something along the lines of primers about decorative concrete? I mean, is something like that, would that be effective, or?
It really depends on the audience you're aiming at. If, like, in our office, we all have a general understanding of the materials we're designing with, but we're not masters of the materials, so we're not necessarily looking for the basics. We're typically looking for someone who is specializing that we can reach out to get specific information. I go back to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is valuable just because it has the email function within it. So you're looking at the professional that you're interested in, and you can shoot me an email, I can shoot one to you, and it's just a really quick way to open that dialogue.
I see.
But if you're cold calling someone, then you don't know what their level of knowledge of the material is, so you have to assume they know nothing, and you give them the basics.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was. If you weren't finished with the subject, I had kind of a follow-up, and that was.
Yeah, go for it.
What level of contact inside the firm? I mean, were we talking about specifiers, or are we talking about principals? Or who should we be reaching out to establish these relationships? I mean, is it the business development people? I mean,
well, speaking for our firm, no, it's typically the person who's leading the design on the project, and it could be anyone from principal to an assistant level. Mm-hmm. It really depends.
Okay.
So I say straight to the designer, because they're the ones that are going to take your imagery and your, the symbols and all that and just run with it.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say like any marketing personnel or administrative staff. You want to get straight to the designer.
And the way to find out too, if you're trying to figure out who's doing what, again, it's if you are not connected with a designer on a particular project, but you have wind of a project that's in design, the simplest way is to go to the client, the owner, and ask them who's your designer, and usually they'll give you contact information and just go call that person.
Okay.
And just to clarify, too, the first two projects that we highlighted, they followed the design, bid, build model, and they were for public agencies. So given that structure, there's a certain protocol that has to be followed, which is really why we've seen the contractor translate their initial efforts with assisting into work is when they've been involved in that design phase with a designer, so the designer that can take steps to write the specifications in such a way that favor that contractor. And so, when you move to the private side with a private developer, they simply, a lot of times develop relationships with particular companies they just use all the time, and that's a bit of a different model.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I'm showing no further questions.
All right, so our last and final project, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Mike Sherrod, and another coastal project is Avila Beach.
Yeah, and Avila Beach is in San Luis Obispo County, so it's actually in the county of our headquarters. And it's an interesting project. It actually started in the late, 1999, right around 2000, but essentially it was a teardown of a coastal town because underlying the town was a toxic mess created. At one point, this was a oil terminal for transporting crude out to ships, and it leaked over time and created this plume under the city. Really the only solution that any of the regulators could figure out was to raise the town, remove the contaminants, replace it with clean soil, and then rebuild the town. So in that process, we were involved, and this is a little bit of a different model than the first two we explained, which were directly for our publications. This was a public and private partnership where Unical, which was taken over by Chevron, was the owner of the responsible party for the spill, but the land was sitting on a county property. So Unical came in and provided the funding to do the cleanup and then rebuild the town in partnership with the county. So it was a quasi public project. And the slides that we're showing now are showing some of the concepts we started generating. Again, this is through a public process. As you can imagine, a large section of the community was displaced, and they had a vested interest in how their town would be rebuilt. So we listened and worked with them and rebuilt the town, and it was roughly 6 city blocks of replacement in the entirety of the waterfront and a portion of the pier. The drawings that we're focusing on are the public street and the waterfront area. And this next slide is a little bit of an enlargement, and we began looking at different shapes mimicking the ocean and the waves, and the community was really interested in creating this beach kind of a feel. And we really started to wonder, well, how can we make this, how do we build this? And again, it's a highly visited public space. You know, the majority of this is going to be flat work or concrete formwork of some kind. So again, we went back to Contractor, concrete contractor that we'd worked with in the past, and we engaged them, and and rather than them contact us, we contacted them. This is where having the relationship comes in. We already knew from previous experience of projects that this sort of project would be something they'd be strong in. So we reached out to them, got them involved in the design development, and they helped us understand what we could do with the project. There's an image here that shows the completed plaza, and you can see against the beach the curvilinear shapes. But their information was key because, again, this was Unical putting the money up for it, and they really wanted to be cost-conscious on the design, but give the community what they wanted. They recognized that they displaced this entire community. So we worked with a concrete contractor to figure out what were these materials we can use or ways we can construct that would keep the cost in check. And it was a really good dialogue, and it's, in some cases it influenced us to change materials and not go with concrete for different reasons, and then work with them to find different ways to take the concrete and by the way we finished it or treated it, make it look like it cost a lot more. Like we did honed concrete out there, diamond cut joints and things that are real crisp and clean, ways to enhance the concrete we're working with. They actually came to our local batch plant to understand the sort of aggregates that we had so we could understand the colors we could really achieve. And it was to that level of involvement. And there was also some code compliance issues that they helped us out with. So in these close-ups, you can see a lot of curvilinear. That red curvilinear band is actually truncated domes, because this section of plaza technically is a street, so we had to put truncated domes in to let folks know that when they're walking from a walkway into a roadway. And they were able to work with us to create stamps that they could manipulate so that we didn't have to just put the glue down yellow truncated domes you see, or have to stick with just the brick paver shape. So we're able then to design and build the plaza as the community would like to see it. And they also provided some technical support when we put the construction documents together, which is really helpful. They were providing guidance on, based on the soil conditions we have, ways to construct and how to reinforce it. We were able to then bring our structural in. We had some marine components to some marine structural to work with us. So we actually began to put skins on the structural seawall components so that we could actually have a much nicer look to the project. And they stuck with us all the entire way. And again, since this model is a little bit different, it wasn't design, bid, build. We had some latitude on who did the work. We were able to build a rapport between the contractor and the responsible developer, which is Unical, so that they simply sole sourced the concrete company to do the work. And then they provided, basically, they served as our construction agent in the field. So we were coming out for observations, but we're relying pretty heavily on concrete contractor to control the quality and the colors and make sure that in the end the project went in the way everyone expected. And again, this is the win-win where project was completed, the community was very happy. Both our firm and the contractor's firm ended up with portfolio projects that we were able to use and get more work, and they were able to use. So it's really it's a good relationship to form, and it's proven to be quite successful.
Sorry, questions and then do a recap.
Yeah, and so we'll turn it over to the operator for questions, and then we'll do a recap at the end.
Once again, if you have a question, please press 0, then 1 on your touch-tone phone. And I'm showing no questions.
Okay. So last slide is just sort of, recapping the 3 main points that we focused on throughout the presentation. First key point is when. And again, prime time to enter a project is definitely during design development phase. The earlier, the better. The question before about, how do we get in, or what's the preferred way to be contacted by a contractor? I would say if you're contacting via telephone, you try to talk to the designers because those are the ones that are going to be really enthusiastic about seeing new products that you have, projects that you've, recently completed. And so, again, design development phase, that's when you want in. Earlier the better. So second, what kind of support you can provide just to really, focus on educating your landscape designer. If we're educated on your product and the installation methods, the sustainability of the product, we're going to be able to sell your product to our clients. And then lastly, to make sure you get the contract, I think a very effective method with decorative concrete is that it's a specialty art component, and that really makes sure that that you guys don't get substituted. And again, you have to have bulletproof specs and plans. And Mike, do you have?
No, I think that's it. I mean, ultimately, hopefully, we're giving you some information that helps you land more contracts. That's really what you're interested in, and we want to help you get there, so that together between the designer and the builder, we deliver really good, high-quality products to the communities we're working in, and it's a great way to go. And then it allows us to do what we love to do and keep getting more work.
Yeah. So again, we'd like to open it to questions and anything we've missed. I guess let's go ahead and discuss it now. So, operator, we are ready for questions.
Once again, if you have a question, please press 0, then 1 on your touch-tone phone. And Randy Sweeney from Friendswood Contracting is back online with a question.
Great.
Hi, we've got a Society of Marketing Professional Services branch located in my city, and I was just curious if you folks were involved with that in any way, or if there was another association that made sense for a landscape guy to become involved in.
I didn't totally understand the question. Are you asking what organizations that you would want to get involved in that would cross paths with the landscape architects?
That's correct. Well, one I asked about specifically was there's a Society of Marketing Professional Services. They've got a chapter here in Houston. So.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. We have a marketing group, and it sounds like something they would get involved in, but they're not the designers. So, where we interface the most with builders and contractors is through ASLA is a major organization, it's Association of Landscape Architects, or American Society of Landscape Architects, and they have chapters in they're in every state, chapters in every region, and they host events on a regular basis, and there's opportunities to sponsor or just simply provide information or a presentation at their events. I'm sure they're in Texas too. They're in every state, and they're very active, and they have actually online a pretty robust online network. And then there's other organizations too that we tend to follow. There's USGBC, the U.S. Green Building Council. Most landscape architects or design firms are involved with those organizations. So, green concrete, porous concrete, other methods or materials that are low-impact development strategies or that could be used to implement low-impact development strategies, would be great places to showcase. And really the trick is it's finding the professional organizations that the designers work in and then contacting them through there.
Well, yeah, I think that's the $1,000,000 question. Is it's trying to establish where the value may lie, and because there are thousands of associations and
well, for landscape architects, American Society of Landscape Architecture is the #1 organization. Okay.
All right. When you were working with the concrete contractor to help you put some of these designs in the ground, so to speak, were they paid any sort of a stipend, or was this work just was for free until the thing was, I guess, finalized?
Yeah, they were volunteering their services up until the point they won the contract.
Okay.
So from their standpoint, they looked at it as marketing.
Right. Okay. Well, I was curious, since it was a public type environment on at least a couple of them. I didn't know if that had ever entered into the discussions. So.
Yeah, but it's an interesting point. On some projects, though, we did not the ones we showcased, but we have hired as part of our design team contractors when there was a specific need for specialty services that it made sense to have them on board. And the one I'm thinking of, there's two. There's another one in Los Angeles. It's a project called Potrero Canyon, and we hired a company that specialized in artistic rock creation or faux rock creation using concrete, because we had such a need of their skill set that it would just be impractical and frankly unfair to ask them to just give up all these services. I mean, we had to get in there and have them draft with us and develop sets of construction documents. And in another case, we had a similar type of a project where we had such a strong need for the skill set of the builder that we hired them as part of the design team. We made sure when we did that, we checked with the clients, these were public projects, that it didn't preclude them from bidding. So we didn't want to take away their opportunity to get the work. And in neither case were they precluded from bidding. And in fact, they got the work.
I see. Okay.
But, yeah, for specifically the Venice Beach logo, that sample was, they actually volunteered the sample and said, we would like to send you this 12 by 12 to show you what this product is. And then they just helped, aided in the construction detailing. So, yeah, those two services were I guess, free of charge. Pro bono. And, I mean, in turn, those last 3 projects were pretty much all the same contractor because of the level of services they provide.
Right. Well, we do a lot of stuff now that's that's pro bono that doesn't always enter into a contract. So I was just curious. I guess my deal was, is it appropriate to ask, or is that just something that as you said, is a marketing effort? So.
Yeah, I've seen that there, sometimes samples aren't feasible to do for free, and I don't think it's out of the question to to basically say that like the 12 by 12 sample was probably feasible for them to do that out of pocket because it was a smaller sample. Say if you're going to create that designer asks you to create like a 4 by 4, I mean, that's a whole another level, and the client would probably be willing to pay for a sample of that size. As far as design consultation and helping with details, like Mike said, the company that he was referring to with the faux rock, it sounds like the level of detail was, multiple details. But I think if you're just aiding in one specific specified area, that sometimes we do look for more of, I guess, free consulting. But in turn, we're putting your name in the specs and you're in the bid document.
Yeah, but, it is a risk. It is a risk. I would call it a marketing venture. It's no different than when we go and compete for work from a public agency with 5 other firms. We've got a 1 in 5 chance of getting the work.
Right.
Yeah, I think we're all realistic about opportunities like that. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm showing no further questions.
Okay.
That concludes our presentation.
Yeah.
Unless there's any further questions.
Once again, if you have a question, please press 0 then 1. Okay, there's no further questions. Do you have any final remarks?
No, I think we, recapped our 3 basic points, and so thanks for joining, and goodbye from the California Central Coast.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes today's conference. Thank you for participating. You may now disconnect.